Hi there. This is part two of the thing that I've just uploaded regarding the BBC sackings and the general lack of some good quality writing in some of our shows on the TV at the moment, and some of the actors and acts that are portraying parts on the TV at the moment for all the wrong reasons. There was something else I meant to add and I forgot to put it in there. So very, very quickly. It's regarding sport, mainly football and rugby, because they're probably two of the sports I watch the most. Again, when we look at why people are given jobs and why they get jobs, it should just be based on how good they are at the job they do. And that's all it needs to be. I appreciate there's more and more stations now. I appreciate there's more opportunity for people to step into jobs, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. I want people to get jobs. But as I've said in the past, I want people who have got talent and who fit that job criteria to get the jobs. I'm looking at football and rugby, and it disappoints me greatly. I'm going to go into things like this more so further down the line, as I've said earlier, when I've got more of a viewership, which hopefully will happen in time. But why on earth do we have to have, and again, this is going to get me brickbats, I know it is, it's been mentioned by others before, and I'll mention it, as I say, it'll get me brickbats, but that's life. It's not something that worries me, because I'm saying it for the right reasons. I'm not saying it out of nastiness or to upset people. But why on earth, on every sports show that we see now, do we have to have a female presenter? One of the football shows, maybe it was ITV, maybe it was Sky, maybe it was BT, put a female co-presenter on. I don't mean presenter, I mean pundit. I meant pundit, I do apologise. Then all of a sudden the next one did, then the next one, then the next one, and virtually every football match we get, or every rugby match, there's also a woman there. Nothing against women. I know they often play football, or they often play rugby, but we had plenty of pundits before, plenty enough. There's always going to be ex-players coming out of the game who may be looking for another career and looking for another job. Many ex-footballers don't make the cut, or rugby players, but many do. You know, if you look at football, look at someone like, say, Graham Souness, Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Danny Murphy. Brilliant at the jobs, all fantastic. Look at rugby now. I'm more a rugby league guy than a rugby union guy, but there's very, very few better in rugby league than, is it John Wilkin? Brilliant at the job. You know, he's really, really good, and there are others as well. Don't get me wrong, there have been some in football, and especially in rugby league, that I've had pundits jobs and they've been absolutely awful. Men, I mean, and I mean awful. I don't want to call them out at this time, and the reason I won't is because I'm not as critical in rugby league and putting somebody bad on there. I should be, because it's a northern game, it's not got as much money, and if a really bad pundit makes us look bad, it isn't ideal, because all the people that are not rugby league will say, look at him, I mean, he's doing the commentating, or the punditry, he's crap. And some of them have been. But I know in rugby league it's so more poorly paid compared to football, that they need all the money they can get. And if they can get a job as a pundit and someone's willing to pay them, in some respects I don't blame them. Because when rugby league career ends, and it often ends earlier than football because it's a much harder game, a more physical game, many of them don't tend to have any job or income to fall back on. I could finish playing football at 32, 33 and have millions in the bank, never need to work again. That isn't the case in rugby league. In fact, it's far from it. But we're getting more and more women on, and we're getting them on because people think there should be women within the sport. Why? I've got no problem with having women pundits on from time to time with different games, but not so it has to be this over somebody else. It's the same as on the past video when I'm saying we're getting more and more and more coloured people on certain shows, or people of colour, but that aren't representative of the country we're living in at the moment, in that there might be 2 black people on my street, there might be 10 on my estate, but in one of the soaps on ITV we might have, in a street of 40, we might have 10 or 12 black people, which isn't the norm. There might be, I mentioned on the past video, I live in a close with say 50 houses. There might be I don't know. I honestly don't know. There might be 2 gay, be it lesbian or homosexual people, in these 50 houses. 50 houses, assuming they've all got partners, there's 100 adults, there might be 2. In Coronation Street, for instance, there's 30 or 40 recurring characters, not recurring, regular characters, same characters every week, and of them 30 or 40, I think 5, 6, maybe 8 of them are gay or lesbian, which again, why? It's we're overrepresenting everything. And it's the same with women. Why do we have to have women presenters? I don't mind them when they're good, but there's some on the TV that are absolutely awful. And I don't mean bad, I mean absolutely awful. And that bothers me more because they've only got the job because they are women. And I just think that's so wrong, especially when they might be gentlemen that have been pundits on these shows before who are far superior at what they do, and they can't get a look in now. And I just don't get it. You know, I won't go through sexual orientation and gender at the moment because they're hot potatoes and they're for further down the line, but they will happen and you will get my views. Contentious they may be, but that don't think now I'm against anybody, anything, because I'm not. As I say, I don't care what sexual orientation you are, what colour of your skin you are, where you're born, what religion you have. None of it matters to me. It doesn't matter to me. The way I take people is if I like them, and that's it. And if I don't, I don't. And that's it. Whatever you are in between, it doesn't matter to me one iota. But I hate people getting work for the wrong reasons. I really do. You know, but I mean, only because I'm mentioning sport, I'll say this. I mean, we've gone from having probably in those 2 sports, no women pundits. I mean, we often have women presenters. I mean, people like Gabby Logan, Helen Skelton, brilliant at what they do. They do an absolutely fantastic job. Love Gabby Logan, really love Helen Skelton, you know, and others out there. That isn't a problem. But to have every football game or every rugby game or almost every, where there's always a woman on there, it feels like it's a token woman. And that isn't how it should be, and I'm sure women wouldn't want that. Some of them are put in there as a token woman just to have a woman on a panel, and that isn't right. But I mean, as I say, because we talk about sport, then we go to things like they play rugby, they play football, women, great. But now, and it's been the case for about 2 years, we don't have man of the match anymore. If there's a guy on the field that's the best guy, be it at football, rugby, or I think even cricket, he's not man of the match anymore. Been man of the match for the last 100, 120, 130 years. But now, it's person of the match. Because we're told that is more inclusive and includes everybody. Why on earth has it got to be person of the match? We've always had man of the match. It's man of the match. We've had women playing all sports for the last 30 or 40 years. They've not felt bad being the man of the match winner. They know it's just a term that's always been used. It's a term we've grown up with and gotten used to. They've not been unhappy. If I'm a young lady of 19, 20, 21 playing cricket, football or rugby, and I'm the best player that day and that they give me the man of the match trophy, I'm over the moon to have been picked as man of the match and have the trophy of man of the match. I don't think it should be called person of the match. But then again, if you're going to go that far, bring man of the match back, and for women, have woman of the match. Oh no, that won't suit, because some people don't know what they are. They're in between. They just don't know. It's madness. And I'm surprised that these sports have let it come in. I'm surprised that these presenters don't use the term anymore, man of the match. You know, I used the term last week on one of my things. It was about somebody diving. I can't remember who it was. And I said, come on, it's a man's game. It's a man. You know, you need to front up and harden up and you know, play the game properly. And I know Graham Sooner said that about 4 or 5 months ago. I'm absolutely lambasted by people saying, you shouldn't be saying it's a man's game because women play it as well. Well, what he was saying is what I'm saying. When the men play the game against men, it's a men's game. If it's women playing against women, that's a woman's game. They're the same, but they're different. But being shouted at for saying it's a man's game, there's nothing wrong in that. But what I will say is, well, these 3 sports never had women in them, maybe till cricket a fair bit longer, rugby and football more recently, the last 5, 10, 15 years, or whatever it may be. But no one should tell people terms that they've grown up with are wrong and you can't use them anymore, especially if there's no malice intended in them and no badness. When I say man of the match, I'm not trying to have a pop at women in any way, shape or form, or people that aren't men or women. If a woman's playing cricket and I'm told that the term is women of the match, that's the term I will probably use and get used to. But I can't say to... If I'm watching a football match, I'll say to my mate, he's been man of the match today. I'll never use the term person of the match. Not just because I'm 60, because I've grown up with the term man of the match, but because that's what the term is. That's what it should be. And if I'm watching an all-men's game and a man is the best player that day, he's the man of the match. Get a grip, everybody. Come on. Let's live and let live a little. Good God.